Hey guys, what's up? It's Pop Rocks. I'm sorry that I haven't been here for a while. I meant to upload the other week, but because I was feeling sick right before that, so I missed that week. And then I was trying to do the week right after, which was last week, and then I just didn't come up with anything in time. So now I'm going to be uploading this week, probably today on Saturday, maybe tomorrow on Sunday. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, I just wanted to say that I hope you enjoyed this video, and yeah, let's get right into it. So basically, the long and short of it is that I was going to make a My Hero Academia Rivals Overwatch hero shooter thing, but somebody had beaten me to it and then made 2 videos on it before I even made my one. So instead, I've pivoted to doing it for One Piece, which I'm going to call One Piece Rivals for simplicity, and basically, it's just going to be a One Piece hero shooter. So, let's get into it with the roles. The roles for your tank is going to be called a Dreadnought, which is basically a warship, I believe. If I am not mistaken, please correct me if I'm wrong. Your DPS or your duelists are going to be called Buccaneers, which not only are people who run into battle with reckless abandon, which is pretty accurate for some of these people in One Piece, but also they are a race in One Piece, a dying one. So I just thought that was like really cool that it could both tie into how people would play DPS, how they do play DPS in these other hero shooters, and then the actual in-universe reasons on the name, right? That didn't make sense, but you get what I'm saying. And for your supports, I'm calling them stewards. Now initially, the names were going to be Captain, Blitzer, and Tactician, which I prefer Tactician, however, but I wanted to keep the name theming with Buccaneers and Dreadnoughts, so I called them Stewards instead of Tacticians. With that out of the way, let's get into our first role, the Dreadnoughts. Our first Dreadnought is going to be one familiar to all of you. I hope if you've watched One Piece, you should know him. He is Cyborg Franky, or just Franky. Now, for how we're going to design these heroes, basically, they will all have a primary fire, all have 2 abilities, and an ultimate. There are optional things that most of them have at least one of, be it a secondary fire, a third ability on top of the other 2, or a passive. So with that, I just want you to know that before I get into the entire list, which I'll be going all at once. First the Dreadnoughts, then the Buccaneers, and then the Stewards. So let's get into Franky's primary fire, Franky Radical Beam. Basically, he'll just charge up a beam and then shoot it out at a mid-range for poke damage. His ammo count will be infinite, so he doesn't need to reload or anything. That would have been silly. I thought about it, but it was silly. His secondary fire is called Super Franky Fire. Basically, he'll just burp fire at his enemies in like sort of a cone right in front of him. It's like a close range, not very close, not a mid, just like that sort of range. It'll have ammo and it'll be like consumed per second. Like if you've played Overwatch, you'll know like Maze Gun. It's like that, but with his secondary fire. Franky's ability 1 is called Cyborg Body. Basically, he'll just lock in a little bit and then he'll take reduced damage. I will be going more in depth on all these abilities, by the way, in different videos for the specific roles, so this one doesn't drag on for too long. His second ability, I'm going to call General Franky. Basically, he'll call down his General Franky Mega, and then he'll hop into it, so he'll have a new set of HP for a few seconds, do like a melee attack instead of the Radical Beam, and then when he exits it, he'll have less HP than when he went into it. So if he has full HP, he'll have like 50%. If he has 20, he'll stay at 20%, you know? And then finally, his ultimate is Coup de Burst, because in One Piece, a lot of his bounty posters are of the ship, which does the Coup de Burst, so I think it's just funny if he does like a miniaturized version and just blasts people back, and then to poke them at with his ability, with his primary fire. So like, that was my thought process. Make him a little tanky, give a lot of these characters some different ways to do some things, and all of that. So that concludes my Franky concept, and now we're going to get into our next one. Kaido, King of the Beasts, is going to be our next Dreadnought. Now we're just going to get right into it. Kaido's primary fire is his club, and I'm going to try to say this. His club is called Hai Saikai. I don't know. I know I'm saying it wrong, but anyway. He'll basically just take his spike club and bash into the ground. He'll like bash people into the ground is how I wrote it down. He'll do like a swing, and then a down smash sort of combo. He'll obviously, his ammo will say infinite, but he has no ammo. So yeah, that's his primary fire. For Kaido's secondary fire, it is his Thunder Bagua, which if you don't know, he was using that a lot against Luffy on the roof of Onigashima. So basically, he'll charge it up, he'll do a little charge forward and then swing it through enemies in a straight line with like a mid-range sort of dash. Maybe not mid, maybe a little bit less than mid-range, but you know, just that sort of thing. It'll be on a cooldown, you know. His first ability is called Hybrid Transformation Dragon. Basically, he'll turn into his hybrid form, he'll swing a little bit faster, maybe, have a little bit more HP, you know, just that sort of idea. And he will be able to use his Bolo Breath. This is on a cooldown. Onto said Bolo Breath for ability 2. His Bolo Breath actually has two variants, one in and out of transformation. Basically, when Kaido's in transformation, he'll just have his Bolo Breath and shoot it at people at a mid-range like before, you know, just like he would normally would in the show. But then in his untransformed state, it'll be like a very short range breathing fire, you know, but he can't do it because he's not in the dragon form very well. And both versions will be on the same cooldown, so what that cooldown is, we'll see in my next video. His ultimate is called Full Transformation Rage of the Dragon. Basically, Kaido would jump up into the air, turning into his full dragon form, and shoot down Bolo Breath at a shorter cooldown, and it'll be bigger. And at the end, he'll basically come down and knock people away from where he was. And that concludes our Kaido concept. Next on our list is going to be the man who stood next to Vice Admiral Garp against Golden Lion Shiki. It is none other than the former Fleet Admiral Sengoku. So basically for Sengoku, we haven't seen a lot of him other than what he did at Marineford, so I had to get a little creative with the haki that we know he has, and then his primary fire, which we're going to get into right now. His primary fire is going to be Buddha Staff. Basically, I'm imagining it like a walking cane, right? Because he's getting older, so he needs a cane, and it'll have limited ammo. He'll just shoot little blasts of like haki or something. You know, just that's the general idea of it at least. His secondary fire is called Conqueror's Protection. Basically, he'll like use his Conqueror's haki to like basically do a bubble, kind of like Magneto does in Marvel Rivals, and it'll completely protect somebody for a limited time. That's obviously going to be on a cooldown. His ability 1, Full Transformation Buddha. Since we don't know if he has a hybrid, I couldn't do hybrid, so I just said, okay, for like 2, 3, 4 seconds, he'll briefly transform into the Buddha, giving him more health, and then he'll have like short range little shockwaves that'll hit in the ground. That'll be on a bit of a longer cooldown than before. His second ability is called Buddha's Wrath. He'll basically channel his Conqueror's haki and slam the ground, and if it's timed well, he can block damage. So like the shockwave would block the damage, but it's only like that first second and a half, maybe like that first second. And then finally, his ultimate will be called Full Transformation, the Buddha's Judgment. Basically, he'll grow into the full Buddha and unleash his Conqueror's haki, and he'll jump into the air before slamming into the ground with each fist. So like a boom, boom shockwave, kind of like his ability 2, but on a much larger scale. And that is our Sengoku Dreadnought concept. On to our next Dreadnought, we have Jozu of the Whitebeard Pirates. So basically, Jozu's primary fire is going to be Diamond Fists. Pretty simple. No ammo, he's just going to punch you with his Diamond Fists. His ability 1, he will be Unbreakable Body. Basically, he'll fully transform into Diamond, and then reduce damage against himself, and reflect a portion of it back. Now, he will be unable to move, so this will be like a sort of thing you can cancel, but you have to time it correctly, otherwise people might not shoot into you after a while of playing the game. His ability cool, I call it Brilliant Charge. Basically, he'll coat himself mostly in diamonds, charge at enemies, and then he'll shoulder bash them, knocking them back. That's on a cooldown. Oh yeah, by the way, Unbreakable Body, on a cooldown, I'm sure you assumed. His ultimate is called Crystal Crash. Basically, he'll slam his hand into the ground and diamond spikes will sprout out of the ground in like a cone and knock people up and back. Now, he hasn't done this in the show, but I'm assuming he could do something like this if he were to spread diamonds out of him and like into the ground and then pop them back up, since he's a paramecia user and we're not sure if he's awakened yet. But let's just say he's awakened, right? Then that would be this. And then for our first passive, Jozu's passive is called Diamond Endurance. He takes less damage from critical shots, so mostly the headshots though. I think if I do something where critical shots happen otherwise, it'll only be headshots that are reduced, so those things don't feel as bad. But with that, that is our Jozu Dreadnought concept. So now we have the Big Mama. Big Mom is our next Dreadnought. Her primary fire is going to be Napoleon's Cleave. It's her sword, Napoleon. She'll just swing side to side, slashing enemies close range. No ammo / infinite ammo. You know the drill with that one. Her secondary fire is going to be Prometheus Flame. Basically, she'll look at an enemy and command Prometheus to attack them, burning them at a mid-range. This will have a cooldown. Her ability 1 is the same thing, but with Hera, which is her new lightning cloud to replace Zeus. It'll also be on a similar cooldown, be able to shoot lightning from a mid-range. Her ability 2, I call it Soul Pocus. Basically, she'll grab an enemy, steal some of their life force, and then toss them away to create homies around the battlefield to defend her team. So, let's say it's like one of 3 homies can randomly spawn. It could be a little pig or a homie or something like that. Gives everybody within a certain radius movement speed boost. Could be a tree, then they'll have health regeneration. Or something else, maybe enemies will take damage if they get too close. That'll be on a longer cooldown, but you know, you get the idea. Her ultimate is called Hunger Pains. Basically, Prometheus and Hera will go into her sword and she'll slash 3 times and then at a range and steal life force for her Soul Pocus. So like her ultimate's going to play into that ability. And that is my Big Mom Dreadnought concept. For our next Dreadnought, we have the man, the myth, the legend, the hero, Garp. Now, Garp, his primary fire is going to be called Fist of Love. He's just going to punch you in the face. He's got no ammo / infinite ammo, you know. His secondary fire will be Hockey Shockwave. Basically, he'll ball up his fist with Hockey, and then he'll be able to knock back close range enemies and hit mid-range enemies with like the air current. That's the idea. Give him a little bit of range, but not a lot, which is a commonality with most melee heroes. They have something that interacts at close range, and something that interacts at mid-range, or having a closer in like Thunder Bagua from earlier. His first ability is called Iron Guard. Basically, he'll cross his arms, blocking incoming damage for him and his allies. It's only going to be on a resource meter, so we'll see how that goes. And then plus, on top of that, it'll be a very short maybe 1.5 second cooldown. Like when he has it up, it goes down, and then it has to regenerate. It'll be like a 3 second probably. Second ability, Blue Hole. He'll dash forward and slam his arm into an enemy, clotheslining them. That'll be a bit of a longer cooldown, do some decent damage, you know. And then finally for Garp, his ultimate, Galaxy Impact. He'll jump up into the air with Conqueror's Hockey and then slam down his fist, doing massive AoE damage. And that is our Garp Dreadnought concept. Our next Dreadnought is going to be Blackbeard. His primary fire is going to be Quake Punch, so he'll channel the Quake Fruit power and then punch somebody, knocking them back a little bit, and it'll be on a 0.5 second cooldown, so you can't just punch, immediately punch again, you know? Even though it'll have a wind-up, I thought to justify the knockback, it'll have a minor cooldown. For his ability 1, it is called Black Hole. Basically, he'll just channel darkness around him in a decent radius, and think how he did it against Ace, where he made that black hole to sink in the whole city. He'll reduce all allied damage within the radius, and then slow enemies if they're in it as well. That is on a cooldown. Ability 2 is called, I'm going to say it, Kuro Uzu, or Dark Grasp, basically. He'll swipe his hand at you and Zahando you very close to him, and then once you get close to him with that ability, it'll lock out your abilities for movement to give the idea of how he did against Ace once again, where he grabbed him and he wasn't a Logia for that moment. It'll be on a longer cooldown, like 15 seconds at most, and the lockout will be an okay time. His ultimate is called World-Shaking Cataclysm. Basically, Blackbeard will swipe his hands to bring enemies in and then slam his fist into the air using the darkness and then the quake to do a bunch of damage. And then his passive is called No Escape. Enemies pulled in by Blackbeard have a movement lockout of 0.5 to 1.25 seconds. I just want to make that one clear right now. I'll still reiterate it in a later video, but I felt it was worth saying now. With that, that is my Blackbeard Dreadnought concept. Next up is going to be one of the last Buccaneers alive, maybe the last, or Jewel Bonnie's father, Bartholomew Kuma. I literally butchered that, but anyway, his primary fire is going to be paw palm strike. Basically, he'll do a series of open palm strikes in front of him doing light knockback. So like Blackbeard would do an okay knockback, like 5 meters. Kuma would do like 2, you know? It'll be infinite ammo, no ammo, you know, it's a melee. For the secondary fire, it's going to be Pacifista Ray. Basically, he'll open his mouth and fire a beam, which will basically just be the Franky Radical Beam for more mid-range damage. That'll be at a 3-second, I don't know. There's a cooldown. His first ability, which I really like, is called Pain Transfer. Basically, Kuma slaps the pain out of an ally, healing them for the pain that he takes, and then Kuma must then use the ability again on an enemy to give them his ally's pain. Otherwise, the ally will receive the damage he took from them, but at a 1/3. So, like, if he takes 100 from you, you'll get back 33 if he doesn't hit anybody, which could kill you, which is why it's a trade-off of lock-in, get it done, you know? His second ability I call Repel. He'll slap an enemy and knock them back significantly and slow them down once they've touched the ground. That'll be on a little bit of a longer cooldown, along with Pain Transfer. Those are longer cooldowns. His ultimate, very simple. Ursa's Shock, what he did on Thriller Bark, where he just makes a big paw and then condenses it and then shoots it in the ground. Boom, big damage. His passive, I like, is like similar to Wolverine's. It's called Repel Escape. Basically, when he gets low HP, like below 25%, let's say, he'll slap himself, like he does to enemies, to get like a few meters away from the closest enemy, or a few meters closer to the closest ally who is away from the enemy. I don't know how that would work if we do it that way, but you know, you get the idea. It'd be on a very long cooldown, like 45 seconds or something, maybe even a minute. So yeah, that is my Kuma Dreadnought concept. I was trying to be a little different with it. Our next Dreadnought is going to be familiar to some of you because they are aligned with Kaido. It is Queen. Basically, Queen's primary fire is going to be Gatling Arm. He will shoot enemies with his arm gun. It'll have ammo. It'll, again, be a consumed per second while firing, of course. His secondary fire will be Hybrid Transformation Brachio Bomber. Basically, quickly turn into his hybrid transformation, swing his tail, and then drop bombs that explode about a second after the tail swipe. So tail swipe won't do any knockback, but the bombs will hit you if you don't back up. His first ability is called Plague Shot. He'll shoot a big needle, or like throw a big needle, into an enemy to do damage over time. His second ability, Winch Defense. Queen shoots a winch at a surface or an ally to give himself, and if a target is selected, his ally reduced damage. So it gives him a little bit of mobility, but it also helps him help his ally, you know. It might be a thing where it'll be a lower cooldown if it's used on a surface, but it'll still be like minimum 6 seconds, you know. So it could be 6 seconds for a surface, and then like 10 seconds for an ally, but it's still pretty good, you know. And his ultimate is going to be Full Transformation Pandemic Performance. Basically, Queen will transform into the full Brachiosaurus, reduce damage of all nearby enemies, and deal damage over time, kind of like a gas effect, you know. And then his passive, The Show Must Go On. When Queen's HP goes to about 0, it'll stop at 1 HP, and he is incapable of being damaged for a moment. It'll be on another maybe 45-second minute cooldown. And that is my Queen Dreadnought concept. Now for the first Son of the Sea, the 10th Straw Hat, Jinbe. Jinbe's primary fire is going to be Fishman Karate Palm Strike. He'll just do open palm strikes. Again, probably be slower than probably be slower than Kuma's, but at a much more deadly damage, you know. He'll have infinite ammo, or no ammo. His secondary fire is called Kairagi, which basically he'll just cross his arms, infuse them with hockey to reduce damage. It'll be on a resource meter, just like Garp. His ability 1 will be Fishman Karate Water Bullet. He can charge up to 3 water bullets and then shoot them out for a little bit of range, shorter cooldown. His ability 2 is called Fishman Karate Tidal Crash. He'll use this Fishman Karate to make a small tidal wave at enemies, blocking all damage shot into it and increase enemy damage taken for a couple seconds. His ultimate, finally, is Fishman Karate 1,000,000 Brick Slam. He'll open his palm and slam into an enemy, doing big damage and knocking them back. So, like, if you're fighting him, right, and you're going as Blackbeard, you pull him in as if you don't kill him within that ability lockout, he can just ultimate you, boom, boom, like that scene from Fire Force where Benimaru like slams his fist into this one guy and just obliterates him. That would be you against Jinbe if you're not careful. And with that, that is my Jinbe Dreadnought concept. Next up is a character you probably wouldn't expect to be in the starting lineup, but it is Pica from the Dressrosa saga. Basically, Pica's primary fire, once again, will be Stone Gauntlets. He'll just slam his stony fists into enemies. Pretty simple. And ammo is infinite and or no ammo, however you want to say it. His secondary fire is going to be Rock Cannon. Basically, he'll like load up a rock and then shoot it at you from like a mid-range. So it'd be like a bomb, sort of. His ability 1 is Stone Fortress. He will use his stony body and turn into a wall for his teammates to hide behind. It's on a resource meter, but he cannot do any damage while using this. Ability 2 will be called Subterranean Ambush. He'll sink into the floor and leave a trail of rocks, kind of like Venture from Overwatch, maybe a little bit more subtle, as he advances to a better position. On a cooldown, be a bit of a longer one. Oh, by the way, so would Rock Cannon. I forgot to mention that. His ultimate is called Mountain Titan. He'll grow in size and then shrink back down, sending a wall at enemies to push them back. And then his passive is called Stone Skin. He takes reduced damage from range attacks. And that is my Pica Dreadnought concept. For our 12th and final Dreadnought, it is an Admiral in Admiral Fujitora. Now, this is going to be our 12th and final Dreadnought, so hopefully you haven't left yet. It's been about 20 minutes, right? It's been about 20 minutes, so let's get into it. His primary fire is going to be called Gravity Slash. He'll focus the fruit of his power, his fruit power and hockey into his blade to make mid-range slashing attacks. His ammo will be infinite and not finite. His ability 1 is called Gravitational Field. Basically uses powers to create a heavy field around him, which he can charge up, but the less intense it'll be, the bigger it is. So if he does like a 5-meter range, it'll be really intense, like maybe 50% slow. And then if it's like a 15-meter range or something, it'll be like a 10% slow. This is on a cooldown. Ability 2 is called Gravity Shift. Fujitora slashes a single enemy upwards and lifts them into the air for allies to shoot at, and it does bonus damage at close range because, you know, your sword's hitting them and then they go up, but you can do it at a mid-range. This is on a cooldown. And for our first ability 3 is Shielding Gravitas. Fujitora will focus his gravity powers to sink all incoming damage projectiles coming and shoot them into the ground in a cone in front of him. This is on a cooldown, so like think of like Magneto's ultimate. You know how they all swoop and go up into it? Just imagine that, but the other way around. So they all swoop down. Just come in his range, boom, down, down, down. Fujitora's ultimate is called Meteor Shower. Fujitora brings down multiple meteors in desired locations to blast his foes. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. His passive is called Gravity Master. He moves faster than normal when above 50% health. And that is our 12th and last Dreadnought concept. Alright, so initially I was going to go into our Buccaneers and then our Stewards in this video, but this video is almost 25 minutes long as is, and I also forgot that I did not finish up all of my slightly more detailed concepts, like telling me exactly how it would look. So I need to actually stop this video short, unfortunately, and we will pick it back up in our next video, which will be about the Buccaneers. So with that, I'll see you in the next one. Adios.